All right, welcome
Ba ba
everybody.
ba 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 ba.
Is that our
It's
new reserve seating logo?
Monthtegna.
It's November. We promised you Joe Monthtegna, and we're delivering. So before we get into the review proper of
Yes,
Forget Paris, I don't want to lose track of the Joe Mantegna of it all.
right.
So maybe we should set up at the beginning of each review of Monthtegna.
Yes.
What is Joe's role in the movie?
Okay.
And what did you think of Joe in the movie? So Joe Mantegna is sort of the narrator of sorts, at least for
Mhm.
the beginning of the movie. He is holding court with a group of friends. Joe Mantegna is getting married,
Yes.
and they are waiting for Billy Crystal to show up, which he does at spoiler at the end of the movie. But it gives everybody ample time to hear Billy Crystal and Deborah Winger's love story,
Right.
and that's what the movie Forget Paris is all about. Joe Mantegna is the consummate hype man for
Yeah.
his friend.
If I'm in a situation, or how about to put it this way, if you're in a situation where you're about to get married and you
Mm.
go out for your marriage dinner and all you do is talk about me for the whole hour, that's just amazing.
I was kind of amazed that like everybody knows everybody's business in this movie because if I'm thinking of like I get my closest friends together,
Right.
say like I'm telling the life story of like the romance of Erica and Patrick.
Yeah.
I've known them for over a decade. I would not be able to tell it with like 3% his level of detail as even the most casual friend of Billy
Yeah.
Crystal in Forget Paris.
Joe is great in this. This is classic. This is like I think as we begin this month, sort of deliberation and debate and discussion of Joe and all his strengths and his range and everything. We've reviewed Joe Mantegna movies in the past, which I'm sure we'll talk about. This is like this is Joe like in the pocket. Like I like him. I like affable, outgoing, witty Joe Mantegna. I think that's a really good like use of him, especially knowing Billy Crystal's energy and knowing how he'll complement.
Yeah, he reminded me of like being the replacement Bruno Kirby of
Yes,
sorts.
there you go. It's
Yeah.
the Bruno Kirby character.
Yeah, he's so good at being kind of like a light comedian in
Mhm.
movies. Like we've reviewed Thinner, which I argue is a comedic performance from
Totally.
him. We've reviewed The Godfather Part 3. Joey Zaza is just as much a comedic performance as it is a dramatic performance.
Absolutely.
I need you to make the peace with Mr. Joe Zaza is one of the
Joey
greatest
Zaza,
lines.
Joey Zaza encompasses all things. He's
Yes.
sort of he's a catch-all for all human experience.
Yeah, he's just like the consummate Chicago dude.
He's a dude. He's a
He's just a
total bro.
dude.
He's a
And I
dude.
like too that he also has the gravitas to deliver like the bottom line information where it's just like, you made a commitment, Billy Crystal. It's like stuff like that. Like he can come in and swoop in and land that while Richard Mazur's in the background being like, look at me, look at me.
You predicted last week that
Okay.
we'd come into this and this would be the Billy Crystal show. So, to what extent does Joe add to this film, and what is your experience overall with Forget Paris in terms of the Billy Crystal vehicle that he
This
wrote?
movie has like the romantic comedy ensemble equivalent of Heat.
Yeah,
It's like everybody is somebody that like adds value.
totally.
All of his friends, it's a remarkable roster of friends. It's Joe Mantegna, Richard Mazer, John
John
Spencer.
Spencer.
I'm mad that they didn't invite Martin Morehouse from Tales from the Hood to the dinner. He's also one of the referees. Big year for that guy.
It should have
Same
just been everybody at that dinner. That dinner should have they should have shut down the restaurant. It should have been like Andre the Giant comes in, like everybody who's ever been in a movie with Billy Crystal.
George Mirasan. He's like, oh, that's my giant. I like this movie, and this was my first time seeing it. For some reason, it was just a blind spot for me, even though I'm a big Billy Crystal fan. Um, it's maybe the last time where he's, and I say this delicately, like a believable sexual option. Like there was a run from like Running Scared to Forget Paris, where it's just like, yeah, Billy Crystal, sexy. It's
I mean,
like,
he shoots himself, shirtless by the fire, and you're like, okay, Billy, all right, I like
yeah,
this.
he's feeling himself. I
Feeling
mean,
himself.
he wrote, produced, stars, and directed this. It's his second directorial effort after Mr. Saturday Night. I've much preferred Forget Paris to Mr. Saturday Night, which is even in 92, that was sort of like an antiquated, like
Sure.
story of a Catskills comedian type of thing. It's not bad, but it's not like a great movie either. Um, I find this movie so interesting because I like Deborah Winger. She's very good in Urban Cowboy. She's very good in An Officer and a Gentleman. When I'm thinking of just like movie romances,
Sure.
but she's tough and severe in a way that she's not in Forget Paris. In Forget Paris, she's sort of playing like a Kirstie Alley part,
Totally.
and it's cool to see her doing that. Um, but I also did half-ass internet research and found that Meg Ryan, of course, Billy Crystal's co-star in When Harry Met Sally, did a movie called French Kiss, which came out May 5th, 1995. Forget Paris, starring Billy Crystal. France again,
Yeah.
May 19th, 1995.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so is this, for lack of a better term, Billy Crystal's revenge porn?
She definitely, again, and I mean no disrespect to Deborah Winger, she feels like the third choice. You know what I mean? Like she feels
Hmm.
like they went to a couple other people, including probably Meg Ryan, and was turned down. And because what else? Give me the context for Deborah Winger around this time. What else is she doing around this time?
She's doing like a lot of like third or fourth on the call sheet dramas.
So
She's doing, yeah, like I think she was in like Shadowlands with Anthony Hopkins in 93. So she's like a dramatic actress, kind of like in the movies that would be making a play for Oscars.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with her in this movie. I just
No.
you can feel that another she doesn't take away from anything, but I feel like somebody who plays really well against Billy might have elevated this half a star.
Can I introduce another theory?
Okay.
All right, Mr. Saturday Night was Billy Crystal's big shot at Oscar
Hmm.
gold.
Hmm.
And then the only person who got nominated off of that movie, I believe, is David Paymer. So was he ensuring that nobody swoops in and takes the movie from him again?
I mean, this is a very Billy centric movie, but he I don't know, he gives good parts to his buddy. Joey's got a good part in this, and John Spencer, who I adore, is playing a little bit against type maybe, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's possible. It's possible though. It's possible.
It's nice to see a romantic comedy with a budget, and it's got a lot of like
It's full of bits.
it's got a lot of bits.
Yeah.
It's got Woody Allen DNA all over
Oh,
it.
it's very Woody Allen.
And nowadays that's great because it's like, okay, this is replacement Woody Allen.
You
I don't
want
have to watch
something?
Woody Allen.
Yeah.
It's
You
like
want
it's
something
either
with
the
Woody?
yeah, I could either go to my Billy Crystal or my Ed Burns movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What do you think of the whole like him as a referee bit?
So I was going to ask you. So this is a
Sure.
period of time where, and then this is a delightful comedy. It's a delightful, just like it's such a like a pre 9/11 movie. Like you just like movies like this. You watch them and they go down so easily. And while I don't have as much nostalgia for these as some people do, like I do. I totally understand it, and when I hit play on a movie like Forget Paris, you feel at home, you feel comfortable. You know the
Yeah.
movie's gonna take care of you. You know the movie's gonna like guide you through it. It's not gonna be intense. It's not you can maybe step in and out of it, come back to it, and um, there's a charming simplicity to its like politics and its romance and its perspective, and so my question to you is, given that context of movie, maybe not necessarily today, what is your ideal movie profession? If you're writing a movie for
Mm.
yourself, as Billy Crystal was, clearly Billy Crystal's goal was, his ideal profession would be, I want to be a basketball referee, right?
It's a good question. While I give myself time to think about it, I do want to raise a point about the whole Billy Crystal NBA of it all.
Okay.
So I know that he's not like a poser because he's like a longtime
Totally.
Clippers fan.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it was sort of like a very conscious choice to make him an NBA referee to appeal to men
Sure, that's
so
true.
that it's just not a romantic comedy because if you litter it with cameos of like Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, like you're more likely you can put it on TNT NBA games, you could
Yeah,
put it on during the playoffs, you could have like a commercial for it.
it's a date movie. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
something in there for the men too, quote unquote.
Yeah. Mine's stupid because I think like if I were writing a movie for myself, I would want to be something like a fireman or a cop or something like that. Like something like cool that I would never be able to do, but like blue
Yeah.
collar and kind of like only the lonely-ish. Like I want to be like Jim Belushi and only the lonely.
See, it's so funny because for me, it's the total opposite. I would want to be like a novelist or something because it would afford me a lot of time at home in the plot where I could just be at
Yeah.
home.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
good.
that's the kind of where it's like I don't have to commit too much time to like we have to have scenes where he's fighting fires. Like for me, it's more like no, I get to be at home in a cardigan.
I
That'd be
want to
nice.
be like a street poet like Rocky Balboa where I walk down the street
Bounce
and
a
like
ball.
I go to the newspaper stand and I know that the guy's name is Jimmy and he always has my paper ready and everything like that and a pack of Bubblicious and
Or
stuff
he's
because
giving you
it's
a hard
Friday.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's giving you a hard time about like, hey, Rock, how come you didn't pay for your papers this week? You know, he's like, no more papers,
exactly.
Rock, until you pay. You know, like, oh, now I gotta pay Jimmy.
It's like you busted my chops. Like if you have to say you busted my chops.
Probably totally.
Does this movie make you want to like rush out to an Italian restaurant and just gossip with people?
Just
Because it really makes me want to do that. I kind of want to like corral all my friends like locally and like have like a holiday dinner at Maggiano's and they're like, "Why? Where'd this come from?" And I'm like, "Don't worry about it." This movie has a lot of like NBC sitcom,
yeah.
90s NBC sitcom DNA too.
I do. I will say, for as much as we're joking about Billy being kind of egocentric with this, like
Sure.
he does give a lot of time to his friends. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he lets Mantegna, speaking of Joe, do the sort of heavy narrative lifting. Obviously, he gives him a lot of work there, but like he writes good scenes. He for other characters, and the Deborah Winger character is like she's not as textured as a lot of female leads in romantic comedies can be, but she's not the worst. Like he's giving he's interested. You can tell he's interested in the Woody Allen of it all, in the Ed Burns of it all, in the When Harry Met Sally of it all. Like he's trying to write something thoughtful here. He's not. It's not as gag, even though there are gags in it and bits. It's not gag heavy. There's a humanity to it for as much humanity as he can give it at the time and the place and for the audience and all that. It's like it's a totally good 3-star movie.
It doesn't matter who you are. If you're starring, writing, directing, and
Yeah,
producing a
totally.
movie, it's going to be like, oh, this guy needs to be in complete control over
Yes,
this, which, you
it's fun.
know, he's a unique comic voice, a totemic comic voice of the 80s and 90s. So, I mean, like, yeah, this is just one piece of evidence of that, and it's fun. It's really nice. It's charming. I'm disappointed that I don't think AFI was doing those lists of like 100 cheers or stuff like
Mhm.
that yet. But if this came out in say like 1998, would Deborah Winger cheering yes when he orders veal piccata make the list? It's so ludicrous, but it's such a like, yeah, he's growing.
But that's what I mean. Like that's as much as is expected of men in 1995. It's just like,
Yeah,
instead of ordering veal parm, he orders veal piccata this time. Oh, that means a marriage is going to work out. You're like, okay,
yeah. That should be part of a reserve seating
yeah.
lexicon, the veal piccata moment.
The veal piccata moment when the character has the growth moment. That's like
Yeah.
marginal, but enough for a movie character.
My favorite movie is Saturday Night Fever, and when he gets on the train and crosses the bridge and crosses the bridge into Manhattan, that's his veal piccata
That's his
moment.
veal piccata moment.
Anyways, so we're gonna be back next week with another Joe Monthtegna review, David Mamet's Homicide with our special guests JB and Jan. So
Yes.
really looking forward to that. I've never seen that movie either. Have you?
Me neither. I hear wonderful things about it, and I can't wait to watch it. Patrick
Yeah.
recommended it to me just recently.
All right. Well, thank you, buddy. We will be back next week. Until next time.
Take a chance on some veal piccata.
Yeah.
Take your shirt off by the fireplace. and be a NBA referee.
Yeah. Call technical fouls all over the place just because you're in a bad mood.
Yeah, that's
Today is a very important day for our country.
yeah.
Not when you're watching this, but today
No,
when we're recording this, it's a very important day for our
I
country.
should.
So I solemnly ask everybody, very sincerely, celebrate the 31st anniversary of Look Who's Talking Now.